it's Marc at the Fantasy Knockout Fantasy Football Show. Today is Friday, November 11th. I'm excited for today's show. It is the Week 10 must-start players. Who are we feeling confident about this week? Who are we worried about? You can follow the show on social media at Fantasy Knockout. Make sure to subscribe whatever platform you're watching or listening on, and let's hit that goal of 100 subscribers on YouTube. Quick reminder, drop it like it's hot. Check those waivers, see who might have been dropped. Sometimes they're better than what was on the waivers before you had that opportunity this week, so just double check that. Let's talk some news.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the news.
News with views. All right, wide receiver Treylon Burks from Tennessee. He has been designated to return from injured reserve. He's been battling it with that toe injury. Reports say the plan is for him to play this week 10. So we kind of have to see how his practices go before we consider him in the possible starts. Running back Alvin Kamara from New Orleans. His court date has continued. His court case has continued the negotiations for like 60 days. I believe they postponed it even longer. I think the next hearing is set for January 23rd in 2023. So no impact this year for fantasy during the regular season and fantasy playoffs. Maybe normal playoffs for the Saints. We'll see if they make it. But don't have to worry about Alvin Kamara anymore. Quarterback Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. His head coach Sean McDermott said that we'll, quote, see about Allen's elbow in week 10 about his status. Nothing new to really report. Kind of most likely we'll just know until game day. Hopefully, if he needs the rest, hopefully they'll just give him 1 week rest and then he can return and play through it. There's been reports that he might need Tommy John surgery. That could mean he misses the rest of this year and maybe next year. There's all these reports right now all over the place. We just got to wait and see until what they do for this week. Just take it 1 week at a time with Allen. Wide receiver Hunter Renfrow from the Raiders. He has been placed on injured reserve for his oblique. I'm going to look to Mac Hollins. We'll probably get a slight bump there if you need to. Mac should be available on waivers. And then tight end Darren Waller from the Raiders as well. He's been placed on IR with his hamstring. Bummer, kind of a lost season for him. Foster Moreau is the next man there. I'm not really looking to pick him up. He's, probably just a streaming option as a last resort kind of a thing. Main event, my must-start players for Week 10. And if I didn't talk about the player you are looking for specifically, check out the latest rankings at Fantasy Knockout. Update my ranking accuracy. I'm sitting at 29th overall for the season, so yay. We're going to continue doing that and getting better on that. Teams on bye this week, we have 4. That is Baltimore, Cincinnati, the New England Patriots, and the New York Jets. Let's talk confidence levels. I'm going to run through the list of players and my confidence level in starting them each week. I put them into 3 different categories. The goal is to cover more players so that everyone has a good idea of what players to start and who to start them over. So further lists, we go down the lineup, the more questions we're going to have of who to start over who. Again, no player is a must-sit player in any scenario. To answer the question, should I start player X over other player? Depends on who else we have in our lineups. The goal of this is to help you guys take a lot of that guesswork out of setting your lineups each week. So let's talk some quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, my confidence level in becoming a top 12 quarterback for the week. My start with confidence is 100 to 75%. We're going to kick it off with Jalen Hurts from Philadelphia, Tua Tagovailoa out of Miami, Patrick Mahomes out of Kansas City, Justin Fields from the Bears, Kyler Murray from Arizona, and Dak Prescott from Dallas. The consider if needed, that 75 to 50% range. Tom Brady from the Bucks, and yes, he's got that morning game. Geno Smith is the next one from Seattle. They have that early. It's not London. It is where is it? Germany, right? They're in Germany, so that's early morning game. Then you got Jimmy Garoppolo from San Francisco, Justin Herbert from the Chargers, and Josh Allen from Buffalo. I have him ranked down this way because we're not sure how he's going to play, if he will play at all. So I'm kind of hedging my bet right now with Allen. The 50 to 40% range is still in consider if needed. Daniel Jones from the Giants, Trevor Lawrence from the Jacksonville Jags, Derek Carr from the Raiders, and Kirk Cousins from the Vikings. All right, the bench, if possible, the 40 to 30% range. Jared Goff from Detroit, Jacoby Brissett from Cleveland, Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay, Russell Wilson from Denver, Andy Dalton from the Saints, and then the under 30%, not much confidence at all. Matthew Stafford from the Rams, Kenny Pickett from the Steelers, Sam Ehlinger out of Indianapolis, Taylor Heineke from Washington, and Davis Mills from Houston.
Running backs.
Running backs, confidence level in becoming that top 24 running back for this week. To start with confidence, guys, 100 to 75%. Christian McCaffrey, I think he's going to smash this week. He's from the Niners. Saquon Barkley from the Giants. Derrick Henry from the Titans. Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. Travis Etienne from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nick Chubb from Cleveland. Austin Eckler from the Chargers. Alvin Kamara from the Saints. Miles Sanders from the Eagles. And Ken Walker III from Seattle. All right, the consider if needed 75 to 50% range. You got Dameon Pierce from Houston, Leonard Fournette from the Bucks, Dalvin Cook from the Vikings, Tony Pollard from Dallas, Jamal Williams from the Lions, David Montgomery from the Bears, Aaron Jones from Green Bay, Devin Singletary from Buffalo, James Conner from Arizona, and Najee Harris from the Steelers. That 50 to 40% range still in the consider if needed. We'll kick it off with DeAndre Swift from the Lions, Raheem Mostert from the Dolphins, Ezekiel Elliott from Dallas, Jeff Wilson from the Dolphins, Antonio Gibson from Washington, Khalil Herbert from the Bears, Jonathan Taylor from the Colts, kind of hedging our bets there again like I did with Allen, and then A.J. Dillon from the Packers. All right, the running backs for bench if possible, 40 to 30%. Kareem Hunt from Cleveland, Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of Kansas City, Darrell Henderson from the Rams, Isaiah Pacheco from Kansas City, Melvin Gordon from the Broncos, Rachaad White from Tampa Bay, Jerick McKinnon from Kansas City, and Brian Robinson from Washington. And then the guys I have no confidence in this week, the under 30%, Latavius Murray from Denver, Dontrell Hilliard from Tennessee, Kenneth Gainwell from Philadelphia, Eno Benjamin out of Arizona, Jaylen Warren out of Pittsburgh, Alexander Mattison from the Vikings, James Cook from Buffalo, and Nyheim Hines from Buffalo.
Wide receivers.
All right, my wide receivers, the confidence level becoming that top 24 wide receiver for the week. Let's start with confidence, guys, the 100 to 85%. Tyreek Hill from Miami, Cooper Kupp from the Rams, Stephon Diggs from Buffalo, A.J. Brown from Philadelphia, Justin Jefferson from the Vikings, Devontae Adams from the Raiders, Jalen Waddle from the Dolphins, Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Lions, DeAndre Hopkins from the Cardinals, and CeeDee Lamb from the Cowboys. That 85 to 70% level, the guys I still kind of like. Start with confidence. We're going to go with Mike Evans out of Tampa Bay, Amari Cooper from Cleveland, Deebo Samuel from the Niners, Chris Olave from the Saints, DK Metcalf out of Seattle, Juju Smith-Schuster, he has been heating up. He's out of Kansas City, Tyler Lockett from Seattle, Christian Kirk from the Jaguars, Chris Godwin from the Bucks, and Allen Lazard from the Packers. All right, the consider if needed, that 75 to 50% range. Brandon Ayuk from the Niners, Gabe Davis from Buffalo, Josh Palmer from the Chargers, Devontae Smith from the Eagles, Terry McLaurin from Washington, Jerry Jeudy out of Denver, Darnell Mooney out of Chicago, almost skipped him, Deontay Johnson out of Pittsburgh, and then Michael Pittman from Indianapolis. All right, the 50 to 40% range, we're going to start off with Cortland Sutton from Denver, Rondale Moore out of Arizona, Curtis Samuel from Washington, Adam Thielen from the Vikings, George Pickens from from the Steelers, Donovan Peoples-Jones from Cleveland, Brandon Cooks out of Houston, and Zay Jones from the Jaguars. All right, the bench, if possible, that 40 to 30% range, not a lot of confidence. We're going to start off with Wan'Dale Robinson out of the New York, Mecole Hardman from Kansas City, Mac Hollins from the Raiders, Allen Robinson from the Rams, Michael Gallup from the Cowboys, Chase Claypool out of Chicago, DeAndre Carter from the Chargers, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling from Kansas City. And the under 30%, no confidence at all. Darius Slayton from the Giants, Marvin Jones from Jacksonville, Alec Pierce from Indianapolis, Khalif Raymond out of Detroit, Isaiah McKenzie from Buffalo, Paris Campbell out of Indianapolis, Robert Woods from Tennessee, and KJ Osborne out of the Vikings.
Tight ends.
All right, my tight ends, confidence level becoming that top 12 tight end for the week. To start with confidence, guys, the 100 to 75%. Travis Kelce's number one. He's from Kansas City. Dallas Goedert from Phillies, 2. George Kittle out of San Francisco. Then T.J. Hockenson from the Vikings. Pat Freiermuth from the Steelers. Greg Dulcich from Denver. And Zach Ertz out of Arizona. Then the consider if needed, guys. 70 to 30% range. Gerald Everett from the Chargers. Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys. Taysom Hill out of the New Orleans. Tyler Higbee from the Rams, Cole Kmet from Chicago, Evan Ingram out of Jacksonville, Mike Gesicki from Miami, and then Robert Tonyan from Green Bay. And then the bench, if possible, these guys are going to be your last-minute streamers if you got nobody else. Under 30% confidence level. Dawson Knox from Buffalo, Cade Otton out of Tampa Bay, Foster Moreau from the Raiders, Noah Fant out of Seattle, Juwan Johnson from New Orleans, Will Disley out of Seattle, or Logan Thomas from Washington. So continue to let me know what you guys think of that format. Leave that comment for me. Give me that thumbs up, thumbs down if you're not a fan of it. I'm here to help you win each week and get that championship. # dominate your league. Let's talk some players to sell high on. So the guy that I'm going to start off right now, he's not playing this week, but that's Joe Mixon from Cincinnati. While fantasy players shouldn't give Mixon away right now, it's now time to sell after his historic 53.1 points performance. Even without his 5 touchdowns, the star running back would have scored 23.1 fantasy points. That's 22.1% higher than his average, or than his previously season high, which was week 1. More importantly, he has struggled this season, averaging only 3.4 yards per rushing attempt before last week's game. Furthermore, Mixon has a pretty difficult playoff schedule with matchups against Tampa Bay, New England, and Buffalo. I would kind of swap him for maybe a Travis Etienne, especially since Jacksonville faces like the Houston Texans and their awful run defense in Week 17. Some players to target or buy, guys that I'm going to look to maybe acquire and trade. James Conner from Arizona. Conner returned to action into Week 9 after missing 3 weeks with his rib injury. So on the surface, his performance kind of didn't really turn any heads, but he averaged 6.4 yards per carry, and he played 45 snaps compared to just 18 over the other running backs. Conner moved with his fresh legs, and he turned his 7 carries into 45 yards while generating 5 targets in a negative game script. Arizona plays at the fastest pace in the NFL, averaging nearly about 70 plays per game. So I'd look to move him for maybe a Jamal Williams, Raheem Mostert, or even a David Montgomery. Get rid of those guys. Go get Conner instead. And then the other guy I'm looking to acquire is going to be Miles Sanders from Philadelphia. Sanders is currently the running back 15. However, he currently sits just 9 points outside the top 10. So Sanders' schedule starts to open up nicely, and the Eagles look to control games within their division, with the Commanders and the Colts and their next 2 opponents, as well as the playoff matchup against the Giants and the Bears before that tricky Week 17 one against the Cowboys. It looks like it's time for Sanders to vault himself in that top running back 10 conversation. So see if you could get Sanders, maybe plus a wide receiver, and go get like a Mixon if you're in need of somebody like that, or trade Mixon for Sanders and a receiver and really help out your team. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. The next show is Week 10 Injury Report. Thank you for listening to this show. Make sure to subscribe whatever platform you're watching or listening on. All right, till next time, see ya!